Hey folks, Matthew Lee here. What I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be showing you another session that I played on. As you notice, I'm playing a little bit of a different guitar here. I'm going to show you how to kind of craft a melody if you get lucky enough to create the kind of theme. In this particular song, let's take a look at it. I've already got it pulled up here, and I'm going to continue to stay in this layout. I'm really tweaking, trying to get a better video. This is now on my camera, not the webcam that looks like it's from 2008. So I'm trying to do a little bit better on that. I've worked with OBS. That's a little bit frustrating. If you're good at it, reach out. We'll do some sort of trade. But basically, let's get into playing on this session. This is going to be more of a pop tune. There are going to be 3 different elements or 3 different layers that I wind up doing. All of them will be I'm soloing them now, so they're going to all be in different colors. I like doing that when I wind up doing parts. A rhythm could be one color. I'll do that for everything. I like drums to be, if you take a look at this entire stack here, I like drums to be in red. So you'll see that up top. You can clearly see that. Drums. Bass, I like being the next color because I'm stacking them like you would in any sort of mixing console. So then we've got keys, which is going to be a predominant part in this. Once again, these are raw vocals, so I'm not going to highlight this person's vocals, but let's take a look at some of these colors. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to now mute all the stuff that I did, and I'm going to explain what you have to do. This one's a little bit more self-explanatory because it's kind of got a pop feel, and whereas the last video, if you watched it, there's another instrument that's kind of taking over the lead, driving you through the piece. But in this one, you're once again kind of just figuring out what can you do to be the glue to the song. You're playing to the song. You're trying to uplift certain elements. And in this case, I'm playing a rhythm. I have a theme that I have going on, and then I also have some fills. We'll talk a little bit about one of the tones that I had, which I already have set up, which is about the same settings on this. We'll talk a little bit more in depth on that. Once again, everything's pretty raw, so there's no fancy stuff going on here. This is all the raw tracks, and normally that's how people like them. What I like to do is set things up. Obviously I'm using Logic. I figure out the BPM, or I ask them to tell me. So we're at 72 for this. Okay, so I've got that good. I've got my ruler going all the way across through the end of the song, so I make sure I'm not cutting off notes that I'm recording. So in this beginning here, let's take a look at kind of the vibe of what's going on. This is the number one thing that you should be doing, as well as do stuff like this, is do a chart. I'll even include the chart on this one just so you can follow along and just see songwriting and the structure to it. But this is the important thing. Get the timeline of the song so you can play the rhythm parts, and then you start to add layers onto that. Some of this is self-explanatory, but some of it is also the process of how expedited you are through it. And there are times where I've spend way too much time on certain things, but the idea is to set yourself up so you can kind of really succeed, and also spend more of your time on creating parts or thinking things through, as opposed to anything else technology oriented. So this is what I was given. Keep in mind it's minus vocals, so we're going to take just a listen at the overall kind of feel to this great tune a buddy of mine wrote. Now, I think you pretty much get the gist of it. Is you've got this kind of straight feel, definitely pop. Obviously, we've got the piano kind of driving what's going on. So let's take a look at, and the chords aren't too difficult in the beginning. It's a 1, it's a 4, a 1, a 4, a 5, and then a 4. So what I did is I took a Strat. Here's the other thing is like use I know as guitar players we love owning as much gear as possible, and it's nice to have stuff that doesn't sound like the other stuff that you have, meaning like having a Strat, which right here, this is what I used on this tune right here. Just, I have some aftermarket pickups, but it just gives you a different tone. You see me so much with Telecaster. When I go to record, actually my two favorite ones, at least for this artist, I really like playing Strat and 335. Obviously, that's what I have right here. And so let's take a look at the rhythm track that I did. Now, this is ridiculously simple, and that's what a rhythm track should be. It should jive with the drums. It should jive with whatever else you were given, so it is just like it was always there. And in this case, we're working with this purple component right here. So this nice track that says Matt Rhythm, and I just panned it a little bit. Other than a compressor, I'm not getting fancy with stuff, but that's normally when they go into the mixing process. They may put they may want to sound it like it's in a specific room, a small room, let's say, and have that type of vibe. The idea is that when you wind up doing this, you don't want to overthink things too much, because they may have a different idea and say, hey man, I love all those effects you put on there, but can you peel them all back? Because I want to, the delay didn't really match up with something, or it was too much reverb. So let's take a look at this. Now, this is going to be ridiculously simple, but keep in mind what we're striving for is a solid rhythm part. So once again, it's going to be the same chords, 1 4 1 4. I'll try not to talk too much over it. So you're hearing what's going on now with that. Here's that Strat. Obviously very diamondy, a little bit of reverb on it. Good tone. Always strive for good tone. So that's what you got going on there, and now this is with all the tracks. So now you have a guitar part. Obviously, any rhythms that come up in there, you're going to want to be able to hit them. There was a walk up in there that was that you want to maybe highlight, but sometimes it's just diamondy stuff that's kind of strummy and very neutral, because the next layer that you want to add, in this case, what I'm going to show you is like, okay, I got to come up with a theme, and we'll talk a little bit about the theme, but now here comes the creating, whereas the other stuff, you're just kind of highlighting these chords that are there, and you want to make sure you kind of stay out of not only other people's ways, but your own way, because as a guitar player, if you're supposed to do the fills and all of a sudden you're like, hey man, I just recorded this rhythm part and I did too much. I did a fill on my rhythm part. So you've really got to wear a lot of different hats and make sure that you just kind of have something that that kind of stays out of the way, but still sonically beefs it up and presents the guitar as a rhythm. Let's take a look at this theme that I wound up doing now. I'm on the particular setting, so you're going to get something that sounds similar to this. Maybe not as much gain. I might have changed it a little bit from there. So let's bring that gain down just a little bit. So you're going to hear this octave thing, and that's what I wanted to do, is because it's not a fast song, you're not ripping stuff. I didn't feel it was bluesy. It's definitely pop. I kind of wanted something to sing. So let's just see what I came up with there. It's going to be panned at about 3 o'clock, and this is now showing up in the pink. I like using pink because what that does for me is that signifies that's kind of the upper end of the spectrum that they give you. And as you can see, I have a theme. I believe this would be like some sort of turnaround and an ending. That's it. That's that part. So let's go ahead and take a look at, with all the stuff that we have going on here, hopefully the mix that you're hearing, it at least sticks out a little bit. And some stuff's going to be louder than others because I'm trying to showcase it. Okay, let's take a look. Now we're into what's going to be the vocal line. So we need to kind of stay out of the way. But what I liked about that is you're just highlighting certain things. The other thing is it can be as simple as this, is literally playing an interval that works with the chord that you're doing. For example, the one chord I chose. And sometimes it's just a small little nuance like you're sliding. And I decided like down here I think is what works the best, because then you have a... And then I do this nice little walk up, which happens here. And let me just go ahead and I'll solo it and take off this. So let's get to about... So what I had going on is I wanted to play over these chords, and I just wanted something that just had a little bit of flash. So I just did this. So that would be a retake, obviously. And you let that delay kind of like launch it into the vocal line. I thought that worked really well. And then obviously, you know, when they come down to mixing, we'll see how loud it is. Let's just take a look at this other theme with fills going on in the next section here, okay? So when you're coming up with a second theme, you're doing another turnaround, it's just 1-4-1-4 on that turnaround. So you can't do what you did on the top. So sometimes what works really nicely is you take the same instrument with the same tone and you kind of use the same idea, but you create a variation of it, which means I was doing that. I was using octaves, I was walking down, and I was letting kind of the delay and the sound of the amp that I had kind of do a little bit of the work for me. And that's what you'll find that getting the right tone, the things that are going to cut, the things that don't conflict with what's already there, and then, you know, it'll lay as it lays in the final mix. So you have that. Let's just take a look at that back half and see if I did exactly what I did at the top. Let's see, because it's the same progression. So now you're bringing it back. It's like a bookend. Super simple. So you don't have to do anything that, you know, it's not gonna, the only way that it's gonna impress people is with your musicality as opposed to all your hot licks. And I think this is the takeaway that you need to have when you wind up doing the playing. I've often heard that recording session people, once they play over the track, are just kind of thinking what they do, they're like, yep, that sounded pretty good, play half of it. And then when they hit the record button, play half of that. So if that gives you any idea onto how much tone is important and how much the notes that you play are super important, the nuances and the lines that you wind up doing, we're not doing fast licks here. And this is a second example of not doing that. Now, to get your licks in here, let's go ahead and take a look at just some of the fills that I put in. So that's kind of the tone that I was doing. You know, I like the middle position on this 335 or the neck position. It just, that Strat 335 has a nice balance when you're playing from rhythm guitar to your fills or your lead lines. Just a personal observation. So let's go ahead and go to some of these fills that are going on here, which is going to be, you know, what I kind of looked at is just the structure of this might speak for itself, but sometimes what's great is to just create space at least the first 8 bars. You don't need to be wailing away. So you let the vocal line start with what it's you know, start the story, if you will. And now when you're getting into the structure of this is another important thing, where I basically kind of took a look at this verse, and then there's another 8 bars, and I'm like, well, that would be interesting to play over because it goes right into a turnaround. So a lot of it has to do with the structure of the song itself, and when you can play and when you probably shouldn't. And also keep in mind, you know, sometimes you give people too much and they'll peel it away because they want to have a fiddle player play or another instrument play. In this case, once again, we're letting the piano do the driving. And here are some of the verse fills, at least that's what I have notated here. So let's take a look at this big blue track that should be right here. And I've got this slightly panned just for differences. Like at about 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So let's give a little pre-roll and let's go into it. Now you're into the turnaround. I think if I remember right, I had some sort of line that I really wanted to do over that 2-5, and that's the kind of takeaway with that. If you notice, a lot of these lines can be as simple as doing sixths or just letting notes ring out and highlight certain intervals of the chord. So let's just take a look at that soloed, and that should it can be as simple as that. It can be absolutely as simple as that. And I think at the back half of this, I get a little bit crazier. So the point being is that as you go through these, and as I do these for you, I'm just highlighting what I thought was best for the recording. So there's nothing super fancy here, but it also works with the song. Pick your guitar that you like. Try some different effects. Try some different tones. Try a nasally tone. It doesn't always have to be this big gargantuan sound. You can kind of start to really work with the timbre and the tone, and then really be, if you get a chance to do the theme or some sort of fills or some sort of light playing, make it count. So those notes mean a lot, and what the technique that you're doing, the notes that you choose to do, the notes that you choose to land on, and that little, or whatever that line was. I think it was something like that. So you get this. Just simple stuff like that, man. That's the stuff. Those are the money licks, and that's what's going to keep the customers coming back. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I plan on adding more. Write a comment if you're really good at video and sharing screens and doing all that, because I'm doing this through Zoom, and I got to keep these 2 screens open, and that's just the best way that I know how. So if you got any comments or compliments, please send them my way. And I appreciate you stopping in here at my Patreon for these home recording sessions.